you are watching me from, 1,000 can become a million, and a million can become 1,000. Both journeys are made of decisions. In the previous video, we talked about protecting something as small as 1,000. But today, I want to go underneath that 1,000 because the lesson was never really the amount. The question is, what can you execute with what you have? Because sometimes we are waiting for what we don't have before doing anything with what we do have, and that can keep us waiting for a long time. We live in a world where everything appears to happen very quickly. You open your phone, somebody has a new car, sweep. Somebody is traveling, sweep. Somebody has opened a beautiful business, sweep. Somebody tells you how much money they made, sweep. Somebody has a beautiful house, sweep. 30 seconds, 1 minute. Next video. And within 5 minutes, you may have consumed 10 or 20 years of other people's outcomes, but you haven't consumed the 10 or 20 years. You saw the result. You didn't see Tuesday. You didn't see Wednesday. You didn't see the month where nothing happened. You didn't see the first customer. You didn't see the mistakes. You didn't see things that failed. You didn't see somebody changing direction. You didn't see the boring work. You didn't see the building block. You saw the reveals. And then something dangerous can happen. You start comparing your beginning with somebody else. Reveal. Of course, your life looks slow. You are watching somebody 50 years journey in 30 seconds. Really, life cannot compete with that speed. And it doesn't need to. Let me give you my own example. Belle Afrique didn't start as what you see today. It started in a kitchen with food. That's it. Food developed into takeaways. From there came a restaurant. Then different stages followed. Different ideas, different direction, different decisions, and eventually the business evolved into what Belle Afrique is today. But if I showed you only Belle Afrique today and say, go and build this, what are you supposed to do with that information? Maybe you don't have the money. Maybe you cannot go to the bank and get 20 million. Maybe the bank isn't even going to give you 2 million. Maybe you don't have proper phone. Maybe you are living in a room. Maybe you are sharing that room. Maybe you have children. Maybe you have responsibility. Maybe you have 5,000. Maybe you have 1,000. Okay, then that's where our conversation starts. Not where I am, not where somebody on TikTok is. Not where somebody on Instagram is. Where are you? And what can you execute from there? Because Belle Afrique wasn't sitting in that kitchen saying, I cannot do anything because I don't have a wellness spa. The wellness spa wasn't the next building block. Food was, and then something else, and then something else, and then something else, and then something else. That's how building works. So let's go back to the 1,000. What can 1,000 do? Maybe very little. Let's not pretend. Depending on where you live and what you need. 1,000 may generally be very little money, but I don't want to ask, what can 1,000 buy? I want to ask, what can 1,000 teach you to execute? Because suppose today you have 1,000 and you protect it. Tomorrow another amount passed through your hands. You protect something again. Now we are no longer observing money. We are observing behavior. Can you keep something? Can you plan? Can you wait? Can you distinguish money for consumption from money you are trying to build with? Can you make a decision and stick to it? Can you record what happened? Can you repeat something that worked? Can you change something that didn't? Those skills don't become irrelevant when you have a million. they become more important because now your mistake have more zero. And that's why 1,000 can become a million, and a million can become 1,000. Small can be your laboratory actually. Suppose you tell me, I want to start selling food, Lee, but I don't have money for a restaurant. Who say restaurant? That's already the finished picture. Come backward. What do you have? Can you cook? Yes. Do you have access to a kitchen? Yes. Can you make one thing very well? Maybe. Does somebody wants to buy it? We don't know. Good. Now we have something to find out. Don't make 50. Make 5. Can you sell 5? What did they cost? What did people say? Did anybody comes back? Which one sold? Which one didn't? How much were they prepared to pay? Now you are learning. Maybe you discover nobody wants your selling. Wonderful. I'm joking. I know that doesn't sound wonderful when people don't want your product, but we will rather discover that after making 5 portions or after borrowing 20 million that open a restaurant. That's why I don't necessarily look at small as a disadvantage. Small can be your laboratory. You can test, you can make mistakes, you can correct, you can learn, and your mistakes are still relatively inexpensive. And this is where this matters. Building block need time. You cannot put the roof on before the foundation and then become angry with the foundation because it doesn't look like a roof. That's what a foundation is supposed to look like. And unimpressive, buried. Nobody drive past a foundation and say, whoa, look at that lifestyle. But removing it and let's see what happened to the beautiful house. And that's how I want you to think about 1,000. Maybe nobody can see what is doing. Maybe even you can't see what is doing yet. But perhaps you are building something underneath: the ability to protect, the ability to calculate, the ability to execute, the ability to repeat, the ability to wait, the ability to correct yourself. Those things are not glamorous. Neither is the foundation. Execution changed the question. So maybe the question isn't what business can I start with 1,000. Maybe that sounds big, and the question for too big for 1,000. Ask, what can I execute today that moves me one building block forward? Maybe you don't need to start the business today. Maybe today you need information. Maybe you need to ask 10 people what they actually need. Maybe you need to learn a skill. Maybe you need to practice. Maybe you need to make one sample. Maybe you need to calculate the really cost. Maybe you need to save another 1,000. Maybe you need to observe somebody who is already doing what you want to do. Maybe you need to discover that your original idea doesn't work. That's also progress, because execution doesn't always mean selling something. Execution means taking an idea and putting enough of it into reality that reality can answer you back. Does it work? Does somebody want it? What needs to change? Now you have information. Let me give you another example. I was recently talking to somebody who wanted help, and I say, okay, the first things I want you to do is to open a bank account. And the answer was, but I don't have enough money. I have children, I have responsibilities. The bank will charge me. The little money I have is already not enough. So I say, okay, but wait, you are asking for your situation. Maybe you need to learn a skill. Maybe you need to practice. Maybe you need to make one sample. Maybe you need to calculate the really cost. Maybe you need to save another 1,000. Maybe you need to observe somebody who is already doing what you want to do. Maybe you need to discover that your original idea doesn't work. That's also progress, because execution doesn't always mean selling something. Execution means taking an idea and putting enough of it into reality that reality can answer you back. Does it work? Does somebody want it? what needs to change. Now you have information. Let me give you another example. I was recently talking to somebody who wanted help, and I say, okay, the first things I want you to do is to open a bank account. And the answer was, but I don't have enough money, I have children, I have responsibilities, the bank will charge me. The little money I have is already not enough. So I say, okay, but wait, you are asking for your situation to change, and I'm not asking you to put 1 million into an account. I'm asking you to take one step that creates structure around whatever little money is already passing through your hands. That's very different. And I think somewhere in life we have to learn the difference between a limitation and an excuse. A limitation says, I cannot do it this way. What other way can I do it? An excuse says, I cannot do it this way, and stops there. That difference can change years of somebody's life. So change also has a price. Let's forget the bank for a moment. Suppose you decide to learn to sew. You need a machine, you need materials, you need time, you need to learn. You make mistakes, you practice. Eventually you can sew something somebody is willing to pay for. We understand that. We understand that learning to sew requires something from you. So why do we imagine changing our financial behavior should require nothing? It requires something. Maybe money, maybe time, maybe discomfort, maybe giving up something today, maybe changing a habit, maybe doing something you've never done before. Change also has a cost. And sometimes we say, I want a different life. But what we really mean by that? I want a different result without changing the system producing my current result. How? If the system remains exactly the same, why are we expecting a completely different result? So why did I say open an account? The bank account is not really the lesson. So why did I say open an account? Not because the bank is going to rescue you. Not because putting 1,000 in a bank suddenly makes you wealthy. And not because banking services are free. They aren't free, they're actually expensive. But the different institutions have different accounts, fees, and conditions. You look at what is available and what is appropriate for you. But that's not the principle I'm interested in. The principle is what happens when you create somewhere for money to go before you consume it. You earn something, you separate something, you put it somewhere, and you try not to bring that balance back to zero. 500 kwacha, 500 CFA, 1,000, whatever is realistically for you. Yesterday, every kwacha CFA that entered your hand was available for consumption. Today, you have created a boundary. That's principles. The bank account is simply the container. And there is another reason structure matters. We live in 2026. Money moves differently. People transact electronically. Businesses transact electronically. People live in different countries. Opportunities cross borders. Records matters. Financial histories matters. So sometimes the little structure you are refusing today because it doesn't look important becomes the structure you need tomorrow when an opportunity arrives. And now you are trying to build a foundation after somebody has already knocked on the door. Build what you can before you need it. But the bank takes my money. Okay, the bank takes your money. Then let's investigate that. How much? For what? What type of account? Is there another account, another institution? What are the conditions? What do you receive for that fee? Now we are thinking. So we are asking questions, because simply saying it costs money doesn't finish the analysis. Almost everything has a cost. When somebody sells something for you, you pay them. When somebody transports you, you pay them. When somebody provides you with a professional service, you pay them. So the question becomes, what does it cost? What do I receive, and does it make sense for my situation? Maybe that particular account doesn't make sense. Fine, it can happen. Look for another appropriate option. That's evaluation. That's very different. So it costs money, therefore I want to do it. You can't say that. One is decision making, the other one keep you exactly where you are. So you may already have the willpower, and this is important. This is a very important part. Sometimes somebody say, oh, I can't save, but look at what that person has already managed to do. They learned a skill, they found work, they started selling something, they bought a tool, they wake up early, they look after children, they survive difficult circumstances, they find ways of making money when there were appearing to be little opportunity. And now you ask yourself, wait a minute, that person already has willpower. Maybe willpower isn't missing. Maybe it needs to be redirected. So the same determination that made you learn a skill can teach you to protect part of what that skill produces. The same determination that made you find 10,000 today may have to learn something else. How do I prevent all 10,000 from disappearing today? Making money require work. Keeping money require work too. We don't recognize keeping as work because nobody sees it. There is no applause for 10,000 you didn't spend. Nothing exciting happened. You simply left it there, but something did happen. You executed a decision. Help is not always money, and this is another building block we sometimes miss. Sometimes somebody helps you. They give you, let's say, 25,000. Today, you are relieved. Wonderful. But what happened tomorrow? Maybe the entire 25 generally needed to be consumed. There was food to buy, there were an emergency, something needed to happen, fine. But if the same situation keeps happening again and again and again, then eventually we have to ask, are we solving the problem, or are we repeatedly financing the consequences of the problem? Those are two different things. The person asking for help is saying, please remove this problem from me. And the person trying to help is saying, let's build something so this problem doesn't keep coming. Those are completely different conversations. And sometimes the most valuable help somebody gives you isn't money. It is principle. It is information. It is open the account, write down your expenses, learn this skill, try 5 risks of opening a restaurant. Don't spend everything. Do this differently. And because the advice doesn't immediately put cash into your hands, it can feel like the person didn't help you. But perhaps that principle is more valuable than the 25,000 they could have given you. Because 25,000 can disappear today. A principle that's changed how you handle 25,000 that passed through your hand for the next 20 years. That's different, but only if you execute it. So don't copy somebody's resources. Find principle, and this is so important. Don't look at somebody giving you advice and immediately say it is easy for you because you have money. Maybe today they do. Do you know where they started? Do you know what they had 20 years ago? Do you know what they didn't buy? Do you know what failed? Do you know what they sacrificed? Do you know how many ordinary Tuesday or underneath what you are looking at? You don't. So don't copy their lifestyle. Extract the principle. Maybe they save 20%. You can't. Fine. Can you save 2%? Maybe they have 3 bank accounts. You don't have 3 bank accounts. It's okay. Can you start with 1 bank account? Maybe they own a building. You don't own a building. Can you start from the room you have? Maybe they have expensive equipment. You don't. What can the equipment you already have produce? Maybe they have the latest phone. You don't. Can your phone record? If the answer is yes, then what are you trying to communicate? Because a better camera can improve your picture. Absolutely. It cannot give you something worth saying. Practice, record, watch yourself, delete it, do it again, and learn. That's the boring part. Then when the better phone eventually arrives, repetition, and that's the difference. I don't want to tell somebody living in one room, think big and eventually will happen. No. Thinking matters, absolutely, but thinking is not execution. Circumstances matters. Somebody has access to a bank, somebody doesn't. Somebody has family financing them, somebody doesn't. Somebody has connection, somebody doesn't. Somebody has 20 million, somebody has 1,000. Those are not equal starting points, but there is still a question available to all of us. What can I execute from my starting point, not somebody else, mine? Because once I accept where I actually am, I can make a really decision about what to go next. So here is something concrete. Take whatever you are trying to build. Don't write down the finished dream. Write down the next building block. Not I want a restaurant. What's before the restaurant? Not I want a successful YouTube channel. What's before the successful channel? Not I want 100 million. What's before the 100 million? Ask yourself, what can I execute this week with resources I already control? Then, what do I need to learn from this step before I move to the next one? And what evidence will tell me I am ready for the next step? Maybe 5 customers become 20. Maybe demand exceeds your capacity. Maybe you have saved enough. Maybe your equipment genuinely limits the work. Maybe your one-room operation genuinely cannot accommodate the customers anymore. Fine. Now expansion is solving a problem. You are not expanding because expansion looks successful. You are expanding because the next building block has become necessary. And eventually this becomes legacy. Legacy sounds like a very big word. We think property, companies, millions, inheritance, but maybe legacy begins much earlier. Maybe somebody watched how you build. They see that when there wasn't enough, you didn't pretend they were enough. You calculated, you worked, you learned, you adjusted, you protected something. You built the next block, and more eventually came. You knew what to do with it because you had already practiced the principle where there was less. Then perhaps what you are passing to the next generation isn't only the finished business. You are passing the architecture. And if one day they lose the building, they still know how to build. That's, to me, is powerful. Absolutely powerful. So let me leave you with some questions. Forget what everybody else is showing you for a moment. Forget. Look at your own life. What do you actually have today, not what you wish you had. What do you have? What can you execute with it? What is your next building block? What are you refusing to start because you cannot afford the finished version? What skills you develop before the money arrives? What can you test cheaply before risking something expensive? What are you calling too small? That might actually be your laboratory. What are you rushing because somebody else 30-second video made your 5 years journey feel slow? Are you asking somebody to help you change your situation, or are you asking them to keep financing the consequences of it? What principle have you been given that you keep dismissing because it doesn't immediately put money in your hands? And if somebody gives you the millions tomorrow, what have you already built that would tell that money what to do? Because perhaps that's the real lesson underneath the 1,000. The 1,000 hasn't asking, the 1,000 isn't asking you to become a millionaire overnight. The 1,000 is not asking that. Can you execute? That's what the 1,000 is asking you. Can you execute? Can you learn? Can you protect? Can you protect me? Can you repeat me? Can you correct? Can you build one block and then another? Because social media can compress somebody's life into 30 seconds. Life doesn't. Life gives you Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday, and sometimes nothing spectacular happens. You work, you learn, you make a decision, you change something, you protect something, you try, and slowly those ordinary days begin sitting on top of each other until one day somebody sees what you have built and think, that happened quickly. No, they just didn't see the building blocks. So my final question to you is, if you stop waiting for the resources required to build the finished picture, what could you start building today with what is already in your hand? So this is Lee, the mind behind Belle Afrique. The building blocks are so important. Follow. And it's not always about money. Money matters, yes. But today, if you have been given a million today and you have not experienced how to be patient, how to wait, how to move, what to do, how to observe, and how are you going to spend those millions? So I hope you have learned something, you understand, and then you can build your legacy and you can preserve it. So this is Lee, the mind behind Belle Afrique. Thank you for watching me, and I hope you have grabbed the tip. Thank you.